like to call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, April 6, 2015. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Bruno.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Drosha.
Here.
Councilmember Ferris.
Here.
Councilmember Mulvaney.
Here.
Mayor Waltz.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Would you please rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation led by Councilmember Bruno.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, we ask your guidance tonight in making correct decisions for the citizens of the city of Mason. We also ask that you watch over our men and women military, particularly those in harm's way.
Are there any announcements this evening? Seeing none. People from the floor. Is there anybody that would wish to address the council? Please state your name and address.
My name's Mary Schinkel. I am here on behalf of Congressman Mike Bishop, sorry. It was Rogers for a long time. And I am here to present the flag that was flown over the United States Capitol in commemoration of the 150th anniversary for the city of Mason. So I have it here.
Oh, awesome.
And I just want to introduce myself. I am the new community liaison for Ingham County for the congressman. So if there's anything that anyone ever needs, please let me know.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to give this to you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to accept it on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Is there any other persons from the floor? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Nicole Austin. My address is 1213 Lenore Avenue, Lansing. But I'm here on behalf of Good Bites Food Truck, and our address is 98 Primrose Lane, Mason. I sent a letter to the council requesting permission to park on the street in front of Bad Brewing using our truck so that we are able to draw a little bit more attention to the fact that there is a food truck in Mason. And we also do service in the brewery. We have the permission of Brian Rasdale, who's the owner of Bad Brewing Company. So I'm just here to answer any questions if anyone was able to look over that letter and ask if there are any questions.
Mr. Colburn.
Honorable Mayor and Council members, the staff is staffing that so they can put together a report for you, and then it'll be presented back to the City Council.
Thank you. Have you, just a question for you, have you examined our ordinances? Presently, there probably is some prohibitions against something like that. Is that what you're hoping to?
We have a peddler's permit, which I believe gives us permission. I just want to make sure that we're not stepping on anyone's toes or not using that permit correctly.
The permit is one thing, but it does not grant permission to park in the public right of way. That still is something that would have to be either granted by an invitation of local government or a nonprofit or granted by sole authority of the City Council. So it's something that would definitely have to be looked at. So appreciate the heads up on it. It sounds like it is in the process with city administration. And after completion from their process, then we would be looking at it.
Okay.
Are there any questions for Ms. Austin at this point? For anybody? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other persons from the floor? Seeing none, it takes us to item 6A, presentations, the 2014 annual report from the Zoning and Development Department, presented by Mr. David Haywood.
Good evening. David Haywood, Zoning Development Director. It's my privilege tonight to bring you the
2014 annual report for the Zoning and Development Department. Wanted to highlight just a few of the staff activities over the past year. In your report, there's a laundry list starting on page 4 of different activities that we've been involved with over the year. I just want to bring your attention to a few of the highlights, that being item H, where we assisted the Planning Commission in the initiation and implementation of the master plan. So that was a fairly substantial project that under the joint efforts of the Planning Commission and City Council were able to bring to fruition, to bring the vision of the community and the wills and intentions of the Council and Planning Commission to fruition, which galvanizes direction and policy for future growth here in the city. We've also kicked off the initiation of implementing that document, particularly starting with the sub-area plan development for the basically the Cedar Street corridor and the east buffer grounds of the fairgrounds and airport area. We're also involved as the staff liaison to the Mason-Delhi Township Connector Trail Feasibility Study, which I think is a fairly important development in the past year, that being a recreation, non-motorized connection between the two communities, which eventually connects our community to the greater Lansing regional trail system. So I think it's an important step. We have basically a recommendation which City Council supported the option that the study recommended, which really kind of galvanizes and solidifies the potential for funding and cooperation amongst the different jurisdictions. So I think it's an important step, and which will give our residents and business owners alternate means of either transportation and or recreation. Staff completed the environmental remediation and demolition of some city-owned property, particularly 927 North Mason Street. And we're also, for 2015, will complete the project at 1020 East Ash Street. We also attended the Michigan Department of Transportation non-motorized plan public input meeting in December. And I think this is also important to make that connection between the trail connector project and MDOT, so that they have that on their radar, as well as other improvements in the city that are consistent with our master plan that will be on the radar for MDOT to make improvements, particularly that segment of sidewalk between Ash Street and Columbia on Cedar, to name one of many. Moving on to planning and zoning and community development component of the department, specifically the types of permits that were issued. And there are a long list of items, everything from rezoning to soil erosion and sedimentation control. And as you can see, overall, we are somewhat down in the total number of permits issued in that area, particularly in public hearings and site plan reviews, as well as zoning board of appeals. And some of that is due to the economy, some of that is due to a shift in development from residential to commercial. So we're seeing a little bit of a shift there. But it's not out of the range of the average for the last 4 years. I think what we've seen in the total permits in the department increasing since 2011 are probably primarily due to soil erosion and sedimentation control program, which we're no longer doing, so that'll automatically drop us back down to pre-program numbers. Some of the ordinance amendments that the department worked on were those related. One of the bigger activities has been the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. That landscape has changed dramatically from year to year, from month to month, kind of depending on what's happening with state legislation and or case law in the state. So we're kind of back to square one and kind of starting with the Planning Commission and the City Council together have outlined some direction for moving forward on this issue, and we look forward to involving the community to try to have a community approach to solving this issue in the near future. As I mentioned, the soil erosion and sedimentation control program was rescinded, and that municipal enforcing agency is now the Ingham County Drain Commissioner. One other highlight in terms of program activities was a public transportation study that was done here in the city, which is really the first of its kind here, trying to get an understanding of what the public interest might be in public transportation between the City of Mason and the City of Lansing. That study really found that there was some support for increased frequency in public transportation access between the two cities among the survey respondents, but that more study was needed to really determine if there was an actual demonstrated trigger for generating more trips or more frequent trips or change in service hours. The community garden had another successful growing season. It's the 5th season last year. The purpose of the garden is twofold. One, to provide space for residents to grow their own produce, and it also has a component where a section of the garden is reserved for volunteers to grow produce to donate to the local food pantry, as well as other at-needs housing organizations such as Jefferson Square and so on. Volunteer coordinators of this program, Jill and Jason McMahon, together worked very hard to make this program a success, as well as volunteer coordinator Gail Love, who contributed countless hours to make sure that people were well taken care of in the garden and that produce was delivered to the appropriate at-need community. Together they produced nearly 340 pounds of produce to residents at need, which is roughly about a week's worth of produce for a family of 4. One other project the department is working on is the replacement of the bridge in front of the cemetery offices on North Jefferson Street, replacing the vehicular bridge with a pedestrian bridge. To date, we've raised nearly $72,000 toward that project from a variety of funding sources, everywhere from the DNR to local residents to even some of your council members. So we're looking forward to making this project a reality. The bid package is out. Bids are due May 12th. So we look forward to seeing you next month with potentially a contractor and a completion date. Just a side note on that issue, both townships, Vevay and Aladdin, are supportive of this project. They've taken formal township board action to support the project, and it's also a project that's listed in our master plan. With regard to Planning Commission activity, as I mentioned, they were very busy with the master plan adoption and implementation, medical marijuana ordinance. They also are recognizing 3 new members last year, that being Tim Scott, who is an employee of Dart Container, has extensive knowledge in facilities management, budgeting, and is also, I believe, a volunteer firefighter. Lori Hagel, she has experience in the legal and health professions, so she brings a unique perspective of health-related facilities and concerns in the community, and is already volunteering on subcommittees and making my job a lot easier. Of course, we can't forget Marlon Brown, our Mayor Pro Tem, who left the Planning Commission to join the council, but now back in the Mayor Pro Tem position as a natural conduit to the council to serve as the liaison to the Planning Commission. So welcome all of our new commissioners. With regard to our building department, or building division and construction, a couple notes on the development related to building permits. New single-family homes are significantly up this year to 26, where last year and the year before they were roughly around 15 to 17 new single-family units. So that's a good increase, and we're glad to see that there are new home constructions out there. With regard to commercial permits, we're down quite a bit there. However, it can't be understated that there are a number of commercial projects in the pipeline, if not have started already. For example, the Oracle building at 124-140 is a tremendous revisioning of that property and a transformation that we're seeing happen there that's going to be significant for the economic vitality of our downtown. Obviously, that piggybacks much of the other developments that have happened and all of the good work through the land bank, Ingham County Land Bank, and the DDA, the Housing Commission, and on and on and on, Historic District Commission, that have partnered in realizing the impact of reinvestment in our community. And we're seeing the potential for a few other projects, been approached by several different property owners. So I think we're going to continue to see this trend continue. And I would say in the next 5 or 10 years, if they all pan out, we could double the number of residential dwellings we have downtown. So look forward to continuing to report on that, on the success of the past and the potential of the future. Just want to highlight a few other major commercial projects that have happened. And when I say major, I say just those commercial projects that are valued over $10,000. That being Dr. Seuss Medical, that's an office rehabilitation at 200 Temple Street. This utilizes a vacant structure. It's been vacant for nearly 10 years. So it's good to see that building's back in productive use. Zielinski Dental Office Addition on West Ash. Ingham County Fairgrounds built a new arena there. Hungry Howie's has a substantial roof project there on North Cedar, and Cherry Grove Apartments that did some substantial exterior rehabilitation to that property. So outside from the typical things that we see every day from downtown, we get to hear about the other projects around the community that are doing good things and are successful, which continues to have a shot in the arm of Mason, that Mason's a viable community for not only residential but commercial development. A couple other highlights, as I mentioned before, 2 projects that kind of piggyback on the Oracle building, which is 368 South Jefferson Street, also known as the Vault Deli. They are planning to add, I believe it's 4 residential units above that property. And what's unique about this property is they're not going after the typical model of nearly the smallest apartment that they can get. They're actually going for larger units, larger size units, multiple bedrooms, that try to hit a different demographic, provide a different option downtown, which is one that we've not seen downtown, or there are very few. So we're looking forward to increasing our variety of housing units in the downtown area. Also, the 154 West Maple Street, the former Mason Shoe Store building, we were involved in a blight certification there. What a blight certification does by our building official is confirms that there are building deficiencies to the point where entire systems such as mechanical, electrical, and so on that do not functionally serve the building adequately anymore. They may be structurally related, they may be roof systems, and so on. What that does is it lists the things that are now available for funding through state programs such as MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and other sources. So what that does is we can utilize the resources that we have to help a local business or property owner have an advantage statewide, and put them in a position of being able to have funding and make their investment go further. And it really couldn't be done without a collaborative effort between the property owner, the city, and other organizations such as the state, the DDA, Ingham County Housing Commission, Revitalize Inc., and work with Bruce Johnston. So all of these people work together to make these good things happen. All of these projects have many more legs than we realize. And with that, that concludes the summary of the activities that our departments have been involved in. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be involved in those. And at this point, I'll take any questions or comments you have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Haywood?
Mr. Mayor, I have a
Councilmember
question. On the 1020 East Ash, do I understand from what is here that the asbestos remediation has not been completed as of this time?
That's correct.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to thank Mr. Haywood for his report and also congratulate you again on your recognition last year as the Department of the Year for the city. I think your work speaks volumes, and I've heard a lot of positive things out in the community as well, and so I want to publicly commend you for all that you do for the city. I do have a few questions that I wanted to pose to you tonight. The first one, in honor of baseball's opening day, is what I'd like to call a softball, slow pitch, kind of right down the plate. And that question is, would you speak to us about the upcoming training opportunity on placemaking that is going to be held here, and maybe even give a brief commercial to the public that's watching on opportunities to still participate in that?
What you're referring to is a workshop that's essentially put on by the Land Use Policy Institute and MSU. We have an opportunity to have some experts facilitate a community discussion about what placemaking is, what we have as a community, and what we can do to advance and enhance the place that is Mason. It's happening April 15th, I believe, pretty much all day from roughly 1 o'clock through, I think it's 5 or 8:30, thank you. Yeah, and it was two segments of 3 hours, one in the afternoon and one in the early evening. It's open for anybody to attend. It is free. Many of our planning commissioners and a few of our council members have signed up for this, and it's at the end of the meeting, the idea is for the group to have a draft placemaking policy for the city, if the city so chooses to adopt that and follow through with it, or tweak it from there, that kind of thing. So it's a great opportunity for the community to come together, to be involved in a real-life planning activity. I think it's called a workshop, and I hope people don't mistake it for just another training. It is a training, and it is an opportunity to develop a plan for the city, if the city so chooses to follow through with it. At no cost to the city, no cost to the participants. So it really is a fantastic opportunity to encourage anybody with an interest to attend, particularly council members, planning commissioners, any other board or committee member of the city, as well as business owners of our downtown, anyone involved in our great institutions of our city, from schools to our churches and those kinds of things. So they're all welcome to attend. It's a long workshop, but you can attend either morning or afternoon or all of it, and benefit in either way and be able to contribute in either way. So I hope that is sufficient answer for such a soft question.
Yes, thank you so much for that answer. I did have just two more brief questions. The first is, with your role in the Historic District Commission, I know that based on a meeting that I attended earlier this year, that they're still continuing work on the inventory, and I was just wondering if you might elaborate on the resources that might be needed to further advance that particular project.
Yeah, the inventory project that you're referring to is essentially taking. We have, as a Historic District Commission, we're certified by the state of Michigan to be allowed to have a local Historic District Commission. And one of the requirements of that certification is to maintain an inventory of all of the buildings or quote-unquote resources or buildings in that district. So you maintain information about the type of building it is, the architectural style, the people who have been there, the occupants, and important milestones of the building's past, present condition, photographs, and that kind of thing. And then maintain that and add to it as you go through time. The project that we're currently working on is trying to take that information and make it available on our website, so that and it's really kind of a community enhancement tool as much as it is an inventory. It really gives the opportunity for the general public, anybody from out of town or even somebody that wanted to learn more about their property, a very easy and quick access to that information. And particularly somebody who's looking at our community thinking to locate, it's a really great opportunity for them to really get a feel for who we are, who we've been, kind of where we've been and where we're going. Gets a chance to see the evolution of our downtown and the great resources that we have. So it's really kind of taking that inventory from paper format from a file to our website so that it's easily available to the public.
Great, thank you. And the last question is somewhat twofold, but I'll just ask it as one question. Would you share the most significant challenge that your department faced last year, and maybe what are your top one or two priorities for this year?
Probably, I would say the most significant challenge is, I'll say it, it's the staffing level. It's a challenge to go from just constantly switching projects. For example, the boiler problems that we had in the library, I had to dedicate roughly a straight week to that. And that's really hard for a department of one to recover from. It takes, a week away from other projects. You've got to catch back up as fast as you can. But one way around that, one way to solve that is try to get volunteer help, that kind of thing. And I so happened to be able to secure a MSU student as an intern for the upcoming summer, and so hopefully that can help alleviate some of those pressures. Another one of my goals is to try to involve more of the public and more of the public activities that we do, some of the ordinances that we write, some of the projects that we pursue. Try to tap some of the resources that we have, whether it's an intern or planning commission members, to try to get out into the public more and involve them more deeply and more meaningfully. So those are some of the challenges and goals that we're looking for.
Thank you very much for those answers, and I don't have any other questions at this time.
That's good, because 3 questions and you're out on opening day. Are there any other questions for Mr. Haywood?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Drosha.
one quick question came to mind. As it has to do with the zoning or whatever, do you have an opinion you could give us today about the Good Bites truck request to park out in front of, I know staff hasn't given us the whole thing, but is there anything from your perspective that is an issue or that would prevent us from going ahead and changing so that she can do that?
I'm going to abstain from that question for the time being, and I'll explain that later. But for now, we're gathering information from department heads and other information, but we're going to address that more deeply. At this point, it's probably a little premature since we don't have all the information come back from the people that we're asking. So,
That's all why you do
yeah, I appreciate that. Government efficiency, right?
I'm certain that he'll have that opportunity in the near future, as this does officially appear on an agenda at a future point for discussion. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Mr. Haywood. Your efforts and the efforts of your entire department are commended and definitely do not go unnoticed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 7 is the consent agenda, consisting of the approval of minutes from the council meeting of March 16th, approval of bills, and a motion to accept the 2014 annual report of the Zoning and Development Department and place on file.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Drosha.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. With nothing moved to regular business, there will be no regular business this evening. Taking us to item 9, unfinished business. Councilmember Drosha.
None.
Councilmember Mulvaney.
None.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
I have none.
Councilmember Ferris.
None.
Councilmember Clark.
None.
Councilmember Bruno.
None.
New business. Councilmember Drosha.
One quick item. I'd like to move to change the budget meeting location on April 8th and 9th from the training room to the council chambers. I further move that all budget proceedings be streamed live and recorded into the record.
I second that motion for discussion.
Motion has been made and seconded to move our budget meetings to this facility, this room. Is there any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
To say why? Yes, it's because I'm a terrible note taker and I have a short memory, and I'd like to be able to go back and see the reasoning for some of the items that we discuss. And furthermore, I'd like the public, the community, to be able to see the reasoning and our cussing and discussing about the budget so that they better understand and can make more intelligent input when it comes to the hearing time.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Councilmember Drosha for bringing this to the attention of the council. I've often thought that it would be a good idea to move our budget discussions preliminarily into the council chambers so that it will be a more public venue, and also possibly making use of our streaming capabilities. My question to staff is, are there any foreseeable problems from a technical standpoint of making those meetings available, either, if not live streamed, at least live to tape that we could record and place online after the meeting has concluded? Just wondering what sort of limitations that might place on, not limitations, but what sort of burden that might place on staff, if there is one.
I think that's a valid question. I don't believe there's been any issues with noticing, since it's been noticed that it's a public meeting. However, Is staff available for
What time are the budget meetings set for?
6
Six.
o'clock.
6 o'clock?
6 p.m. on both Wednesday and Thursday? Thursday as necessary.
That should be no problem.
Okay. Mr. Colburn, do you have any comments on this change?
No, I think we can still present it down here. I had things somewhat organized for up there, so I'll have to rethink that.
Sure.
And they just answered it whether or not they're available or not, because there's a small additional cost to the city, but we can handle that.
There's also, we'll need some additional space if this is approved for staff that's not here this evening that would normally attend. Staff that normally attends a budget meeting that don't normally have a spot to sit up here. And so, yeah, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. New business, Councilmember Mulvaney.
None.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
I have no new business.
Councilmember Ferris.
Not exactly new business, but I wanted to suggest that I will see everybody out at Rayner Park on this Saturday for the cleanup. Thank you.
And what's the time on that?
I'm sorry, I haven't driven by the park, or the sign is not out yet. So it's usually 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Thank you, Councilmember Ferris. Councilmember Clark?
No.
Councilmember Bruno?
No.
For correspondence, you have in your packet the revenue and expenditure report for the period ending 2/28 of 2015. The letter that was prepared and sent to Mr. Delahanty and Mr. Morgan indicating our desire to pursue the option to purchase Rayner Park. And that's all I have for correspondence. Liaison reports. Mr. Mulvaney, Historic District Commission.
We did not have a meeting in the past month.
Planning Commission, Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning Commission will meet next Tuesday, April 14th at 6:30 p.m. right here in the council chambers at City Hall.
Traffic Commission, Councilmember Drosha.
Traffic Commission will meet here Wednesday, April 22nd at 5:30.
Tree Commission, Councilmember Ferris.
The Tree Commission met. I don't have any details, but we usually do the Arbor Day ceremony on the last Friday, which would be the 24th at 12 o'clock. I don't have the place yet.
Thank you. And the DDA has not met since I last provided the previous liaison report. Are there any council member reports this evening?
Sure.
Councilmember Ferris.
Well, it was a busy week there. Again. The Capitol Conference, I'm at Marlin in the lobbying, so I'll let him talk about that one. But I did go to the pre-conference on community engagement, which was a very good session. It was essentially on planning and the importance of involving the community, not only by informing them, but getting them engaged in a project. And that's a nutshell. I have lots more info that I can pass on and share if you'd like. I also went to the session on recycling, and one of the interesting ones was that, of course, it was a community in Upper Michigan, and they couldn't get, at $2.60 a household, couldn't get a recycling program organized, but one down in Huntington Woods with the incentive of a recycler of the month has been managing to recycle almost 56% of their trash. So the Governor Snyder's hope is that we can go as a state from recycling 15 to recycling 30% of the trash with a little bit of work on it. And then I also took the Emergency Operations Center training for officials over and learned some things, like we have a backup 911 center and a weather station on the sheriff's roof. And then I've been attending the parks meetings, and the Mid-Michigan Greening Plan, which is essentially all of the nature centers, reserves, parks areas, did a presentation for parks along with their trails planning, so that they did this plan in 2009 and are looking to update it as a part of the 2016 parks /trail capital planning. There. Okay, I think that's everything.
Thank you, Councilmember Ferris. Any other council member reports? Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you. I'd like to just add briefly to Councilmember Ferris's report on the Capitol Conference. I also had the honor of attending and representing our community at the Michigan Municipal League Capitol Conference. This was my first time attending the local conference, and the focus this year was primarily on the road funding proposal, that thing that we debated hotly last meeting. And they had a lot of discussion about that. Still a variety of people on all sides of the issue, but it's always helpful to get more information. The Lieutenant Governor did an opening keynote on the road funding proposal and addressed from his perspective and the governor's perspective why they felt it was necessary and what it will ultimately do. Aside from that, Councilmember Ferris alluded to the fact that I attended a advocacy session or a lobbying 2.0 session. Both of us attended that, and it was really an opportunity for the Municipal League to engage with elected officials and encourage them to get involved with the legislative process at the state level. There are a lot of issues that go through the legislature that have implications for local government, and so they shared different strategies and tips for interfacing with legislators and interfacing with legislative committees and so forth. And one of the outcomes of that particular session is that I spoke with some of the advocacy team members at the Municipal League and got signed up to participate in one of their committees. I believe I received an email today saying that I'm going to be serving with the Municipal Finance Committee. So very appropriate given my role in the state. But items that come before the legislature dealing with tax and municipal finance issues and EVIP and revenue sharing, I'll have an opportunity to give input to the league on some of those items. Aside from that, of course, the one of the other big focuses was were the vendors. They had a lot of different vendors from all over the state, and one of the vendors that I did have a chance to talk to was the representatives from MERS, the Municipal Employee Retirement System, and they're very familiar with Mason, very familiar with our city administrator and so forth. And I just sort of mentioned off the cuff that if there are opportunities to have them in to give a presentation on the different types of systems that they offer, they would be very willing to do that. So I don't know what the appetite of the council would be in terms of our long-range planning for looking at whether or not our current system is what we want to stay with long-term, or whether or not we want to entertain some of the other types of systems that they have. But I simply put that out there as food for thought, and certainly don't want to step on our administrators' toes, but I simply wanted to make everyone aware that opportunity does exist, and they would be happy to come and meet with us in a work session to just kind of talk about different options. And so I completely leave that to the discretion of our administrator or any council members that might be interested. So thank you for the opportunity to attend. I look forward to future opportunities to participate with the Municipal League and report back to the council. Thank you.
Councilmember Ferris.
I just wanted to give kudos to the State Journal because on the front page today is a rather excellent recap of the hour-and-a-half discussion on the Proposal 1 at the final session. So it's less than a page. You can read it, and I believe it's quite understandable. And if you want to know any more, feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Councilmember Ferris and Mayor Pro Tem Brown, for your update on the MML Capital Conference. Last call for councilmember reports. Item 14, the Administrator's Report. Mr. Colburn.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I too attended the Ingham County Emergency Management Operations Center seminar. One of the real keys is to be able to meet these folks before there's a disaster, try to build a little bit of a working relationship. Unfortunately, I've worked with Rob Dell in the past in the sense of having met him and talked to him, but I've also worked with him on an emergency during the ice storm a year and a half ago. He was our primary contact, in which we were working different issues through that emergency. I also met Lieutenant Kevin Mark, whom I've not worked with. He's with the Michigan State Police and is the part of their disaster planning team, and within our region, our contact. Bottom line, it was a good opportunity for different officials to see what was going on there. There were 5 county commissioners, 2 of us from the city of Mason, and a few others that were from different communities, and as well as one from another county, Shiawassee County, that was there to kind of glean and make contacts as well. Cities that are less than 10,000, we specifically do serve at the direction of the County Emergency Management Director. I'm designated as the coordinator by ordinance, and so we do work and have worked different emergencies, and we have our own EOC per se when there's emergencies, heavy storms and such, that we open up at the fire department. So it was a good refresher of the state law, some of the processes that we work with, to include bringing in the finance department in regard to how we account for things and get reimbursements under declared state or federal disasters. Attended the Business Leaders from Michigan conference. It's a private nonprofit executive leadership organization, and in essence they were bringing out an update of the message that they have of some of the areas in which the state has specific goals. And I say state, the business community working with state government and the nonprofits. And they focused on 6 areas in which they feel we have a very competitive strength and need to continue to work on, in the sense of strengthening, to bring that energy together. And it's some of our strengths that we already have. Engineering talent, geographical location, the higher education system, natural resources, of course the automotive industry, and health and medical expertise. And they track, and I gave you their report that's in this packet, but that's something that's working together. You'll see the state working very strongly on talent in terms of trying to keep, maintain, and bring in talent to feed the business community as an example. So it was an interesting meeting and a good opportunity to meet some of the business leaders in the state as well. The next item is the TAP program through the Michigan Transportation Alternative Program. And there was very much a last-minute call through Tri-County. It was a bit of a surprise, and they had some funds that they were trying to put out into the communities. Because it was such a last-minute call, there were only 4 communities that stepped up. That was DeWitt, Potterville, Mason, and Lansing. And this was targeting in terms of the southern trailhead. They were looking for shovel-ready projects, and this is one we'd already discussed and for the most part had a pretty good grasp on. So we're still working out the details. It's looking like it would be around about a $43,000 project in that realm. We're still working out the details with them, but a bit of a surprise when they dropped it in our laps. Like I said, most of the communities within our region were not prepared to jump on that particular funding source because it was such short notice. But I am pursuing it, and we'll bring it back to the City Council as we continue to develop this through the state. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Colburn?
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One brief question for Mr. Colburn. Have we received any communication from the county, either formally or informally, regarding the Rayner Park letter that was transmitted to them?
I just received that today, a communication from the county controller. And in essence, they were saying they've received it and they're pursuing the survey. So they didn't say much more than that in terms of any additional steps, but stage by stage, step by step.
Thank you.
I have just one comment regarding the emergency management training. That was a great opportunity for us to participate. As Mr. Colburn had stated, it generally is extended only to communities with a population of 10,000 or greater. And in a conversation with Lieutenant Kevin Marks, he knew Mason was close, and I informed him it was just over 8,200. and that we did, in fact, have an emergency manager in place in the event of that, and the state police was not aware of that, so they did bend the rules just ever so slightly and extend the invitation to the city of Mason, and they know that that has been greatly appreciated by the city. So thanks for attending, Mr. Colburn.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, Councilmembers, if I may, indulge you for one more.
Sure, Mr. Colburn.
Thank you. Last week, staff met with representatives from MISTA, and this was specifically in regard to several different projects that we're working with them on, the Vault Deli, Mr. Warman and his properties he's looking at in terms of possibly 3 apartments upstairs. And then, of course, 124 and 140, and the Mason Shoe Store. 3 of these are pretty solid. As a matter of fact, we're working and pursuing the Vault Deli for funding this month. There's a cycle coming out this month. And that project is ready to go. But speaking with Mr. Davis, who's one of their senior representatives, Mason has helped kind of set the stage with 124 and 140 East Ash. He said there's only 2 of these projects within their entire central region, and I believe he said there's only 5 statewide. But anyhow, to focus on the 2, that this has had such an influence in regard to the positiveness and trying to meet some of the goals, not just what we're trying to meet, but what the state's trying to meet. This next year, they're looking at focusing, 2 years, they're looking at focusing about 75% of their funds towards these types of programs and projects, meaning the downtown urban historical areas within communities. So they're taking some of the funds more, basically redirecting from the housing rehabilitation to the rental rehabilitation programs. And he commented that Mason has had an influence on that process because of our successes in the past as well as this particular project. So I wanted to point that out to you and let you know that that's new information we received, and I consider it very positive information in regard to how we've been conducting our activities here.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn, for that last-minute update. Any questions regarding the MISTA projects? Hearing none, we are adjourned.